Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. In this lesson, we'll be analyzing the 13th chapter of the first part of the novel Atonement. Okay, so Bryony searches for the twins in the night. As she walks the ground, she thinks about the maniac who is also on the lurk. She thinks of her obligation to protect her sister from Robbie and wonders if Robbie's hatred for her is such that he will ambush her murderously in the darkness. Bryony tells herself that she must not fear him and longs to expose the way Robbie has wronged her sister, in spite of all the help that the Tellises have given him. So, even in the midst of an effort to rescue her young cousins, Bryony hijacks the narrative to make it all about her. Her fantasies of being attacked by Robbie simply indicate a desire to be the center of the story that fits her sensibility and exemplify the scene stealing behavior Emily despises in Hermione. So, how Hermione has affected Emily's life or how Emily has acted throughout her life is the same kind of scene stealing behavior which is exemplified by Bryony over here. The themes happen to be perspective, guilt, class, lost innocence, unchangeable past, and stories and literature. Okay, so Bryony continues searching for the twins. She moves towards the pool and admires the water's calm glow. It is nice to be outside late at night with parental permission. She continues to walk the grounds, thinking more about the brutal acts she has witnessed Robbie commit. Through the window, she sees her aging mother and imagines how distinguished she will get to seen at her mother's funeral. So Brian is so eager to transform herself into the center of attention that she gleefully, happily anticipates her own mother's funeral simply because the occasion will give her a dignified position. The themes happen to be perspective, unchangeable past, stories, and literature. At this point, Bryony could have gone inside to spend time with her mother. If she had, she would not have committed her crime, and a great deal of things would not have happened. However, she decides to stay outside. Bryony moves towards the temple in the lake. In her path, she sees a bush. In her path, she sees a bush that has started to move. It breaks up and turns into two figures, and one of whom runs into the darkness, the other of whom stays seated and calls for Bryony. It is Lola, who sounds helpless. This moment is an unparalleled example of the theme of the unchangeable past. Had Bryony made a seemingly insignificant different choice at the time, returning inside instead of staying outside, everything would have been different. But she chose what she chose and could never go back after encountering Lola post rape. The themes happen to be perspective, guilt, lost innocence, the unchangeable past, and stories and literature. So Bryony now feels that she completely understands what has happened. She rushes to comfort Lola and tells her that she saw Lola being assaulted. She asks Lola who did it, but Lola doesn't respond. It was Robbie, wasn't it? Bryony asks. And still Lola does not answer. It was Robbie. Bryony tells her cousin, see the difference. Previously she asked, then now she tells. It was Robbie. Now she tells her cousin. Lola asks if she saw him do it. But Bryony is already bemoaning Robbie's maniacal nature. Lola asks again if Bryony saw Robbie commit the crime. And Bryony responds, of course I did. Plain as day. It was him. So Bryony imposes her own story on what she has witnessed in order for it to make sense alongside her other biased ideas of Robbie the maniac. McEwan's writing here emphasizes the process by which Bryony alone convinces herself that she saw Robbie. With no input from Lola, she evolves from suggesting Robbie's guilt to asserting it. It all began with suggesting that Robber is guilty, and the later part ultimately went on to asserting it that Robbie is guilty. Vulnerable Lola, meanwhile, seems to be looking for a way to hide, and Bryony's confidence that it was Robbie provides that. Themes again have to be perspective, guilt, lost innocence, the unchangeable past, stories, and literature. Lola then explains how her assault transpired. Bryony emphasizes her conviction that she saw Robbie do it, though Lola tells her that she could not say for sure who her assailant was. In this way, the two girls' roles are determined. Lola is the confused victim, and Bryony the definitive witness. Seeing Robbie commit this crime solidifies the terrible suspicions Bryony has held towards him, and she sees the qualities of his villainy. Now, Bryony's story puts her in a position she loves, giving her a well defined role of novelistic heroism. By maintaining that Robbie is the culprit and ignoring Lola's complicating testimony, Bryony validates the self centered stories she has imagined without even realizing its serious implications. Then, the narration fast forwards to describe what happens when Bryony spreads her story of seeing Robbie. As more people hear and believe Bryony's story, she loses the ability to control how they respond, and its repercussions grow. Whenever she qualifies the story or makes it seem less serious, people seem confused and disapproving. In her anxiety to please others, she polishes over her hesitations. As the affair spirals out of her control, Bryony knows she lacks the courage to withdraw her testimony. She tries to be a bit ambiguous, but is afraid to seem like a silly, self indulgent girl who wanted to be the center of attention. Still, she cannot take comfort in thinking she was bullied into confessing that she saw Robbie commit the crime. This testimony was entirely her own doing. She tries to counteract her doubts by repeating them with more and more conviction. This marks the beginning of Bryony's guilt for accusing Robbie. Her story has taken on a life of its own, so much so that it even restricts her own capability to act. She is too cowardly to retract or revise her testimony and sacrifice her clear cut role as the key witness against a clear cut villain. She tries to correct this by sticking to her story more aggressively, but it is unlikely that she will be able to get the complicated reality of the situation to align with the orderly vision she has invented. Okay, the themes happen to be perspective, guilt, lost innocence, the unchangeable past, stories, and literature. Now, Bryony leads Lola back to the house. She hears Leon's voice, and her brother comes heroically to pick up Lola. On their way towards the house, Bryony starts to tell Leon about what has taken place exactly as she had seen. And remember, how exactly has she seen it? McEwan's phrasing reflects the way stories and writing can modify reality, the stories and literature. Because Bryony has decided she has seen Robbie red handed, the book can make the claim as well, even though it is not true. The themes happen to be perspective, guilt, lost innocence, the unchangeable past, and the stories and literature. With this, we end this lesson. I hope you've understood everything. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask.